Coming up on the WAC podcast, it's NCAA Tournament March Madness week. Kendra and I will break down the teams in the WAC who are in the big dance. Plus, you won't want to miss our review of WAC Vegas. There's some big conference news happening, and we'll have Kendra's interview with the commissioner, Brian Thornton. All that next on the WAC podcast.
This WAC podcast is brought to you by our friends at University Credit Union, the official financial institution partner of the Western Athletic Conference. March Madness is here and the upsets have already started. If you've been following along with the big NCAA March Madness tournament as we record this on a Friday morning last night, massive upset. Oakland takes down Kentucky. Pretty exciting. But WAC Vegas, a big party that we had.
Let me talk a little bit about the NCAA tournament before we switch to WAC Vegas there. Yeah, because that was exciting, Kendra. And, I know people around the country have the office pools, right? I mean, it's a thing where, not allowed to have money involved, as it's a NCAA entity here. But I noticed you're near the top of the standings after day one.
I know. I actually was 6 for 6. And actually, I believe I was 7 for 7, and then it started to tumble.
What was the name of that team that beat BYU?
Duquesne.
It was funny. We were talking about in the office yesterday, and then I was listening to the sports talk on the radio here in the DFW Metroplex, and they were saying different names of the incorrect pronunciations of it. So I had to have a chuckle because it is not a common name of a school. But yeah, you mentioned the Oakland University, and that's what makes March Madness great is these upsets in the first round, and we'll get to it in a minute, but we hope to see one later tonight, very late tonight, in fact, if you live in the Central Time Zone with a 9 o'clock tip. But let's start with WAC Vegas. Let's go from round one to the championship. So we get there, it's Wednesday. Remember Monday last week, we had the big podcast with Kyle McDonald. We get there on Tuesday, Wednesday, the game start. And right off the bat, Kendra, we have an upset. Oh, I'm on the men's side. We're starting on the men's side.
All right. So I was like, okay, let's start on the men's side. Yes, right away, we have number 8, California Baptist taking down number 5, Utah Valley in overtime. And this one was pretty cool because Utah Valley came in as what we had thought of one of the hottest teams in the league with a lot of momentum. They had a midseason turnaround, and California Baptist was on a bit of a slide. They didn't have their leading scorer, Dominique Daniels Jr. He was actually getting surgery, wasn't even able to be at the tournament, had been out for quite a few games before that. And somehow the Lancers found a way to win.
They did, and Utah Valley, as you mentioned, I mean, they were red hot. But for whatever reason, it seems that the Orleans Arena has some sort of curse over the Wolverines. Last year, they were the regular season champions. Seemed to, that Mark Madsen, they had Adiz Mendigo and Trey Woodbury and Justin Harmon. They had this great lineup, and then they blow a 20-point lead in the semifinals and don't make it to the championship. They go to the Orleans again for the NIT. They lose in that. I go back to when Mark Pope was their coach, the BYU coach now, who lost to Duquesne yesterday. They lose a 4 overtime game against CSU Bakersfield, longest game in WAC history. So for whatever reason, I don't believe in curses, Kendra, but it seems like there's something there.
If I'm Utah Valley, I am petitioning the conference to move the tournament to a different arena.
So that I think when you look at the games, that was probably the biggest upset because, as you mentioned, CBU last team to get in. Utah Valley playing great. So CBU goes on to the second round. The other game, first night we're there, one of the all-time games.
Oh my gosh. Stephen F. Austin, Abilene Christian. This was a play. It was on sports, the lead story on SportsCenter. It was on the Today Show. I mean, it was insane. It's tied up. Ariane Simmons has a chance to win it, runs down.
Sorry, let me back it. So AJ Cajuste has the ball and gets it stolen from Ariane Simmons.
Yeah.
So I've never seen that happen. Continue with your story. Sorry, I interrupted there.
Then Ariane Simmons gets blocked. So Krishan Christmas just chucks it up basically to AJ Kajus, who just has half a second, ball touches his fingertips and it just launches. 3-pointer, it goes in, crowd goes wild.
And
He
he's
wins
doing
it.
the, like,
He's
like it was
dancing like crazy. And that's also from a guy who we thought he had a season-ending injury.
right.
You know, be midway a little bit later in through the season, and he wanted to come back. I don't think he was playing about 70%, I believe Coach Keller said. So I think that's his last year of eligibility too. So for a guy to come back and have that moment, it was pretty crazy.
And we had a camera angle that I used on our Whack Top Play video that I had not seen before, where AJ Kajust actually, when he was driving, had the ball stolen away from by Arion Simmons. He continued. He had a lot of momentum going. He runs into our cameraman on the baseline, and Arion Simmons is already well down the court. He doesn't even run back because the game's almost over. So that's why he's at the 3-point line, is because he didn't run back on defense. Because
I
if he
think that
had, then he wouldn't have been able to make that shot. So just what a sequence there. And Abilene Christian was one of those teams, Kendra. And I thought that was going to be one of the premier matchups. Of course, it was, because the teams were so even. Abilene Christian on a great win streak. Stephen F. Austin, one of the later teams to get into the tournament, had a higher seed because of the resume seeding system. So they then advanced to the second round as well.
Yeah, it was a really exciting first round. If that was any indication of what the tournament was going to be like, we were fired up on Wednesday. Thursday, quarterfinal round. So we get our chance to see the 3 and 4 seeded teams that had that first round bye. So Seattle U took on California Baptist, and UT Arlington took on Stephen F. Austin. And these two were just a bit of, night and day from day one. I think California Baptist maybe ran out of steam. They didn't have Dominique Daniels Jr. and Seattle U came in just absolutely on fire. I feel like Seattle U is another team that might, at least the last 3 years under Coach Victor, the curse of New Orleans. They've always had a high seed or some sort of bye, and they're one and done each year, last 2 years. And so this year, for them to come out and be so explosive on offense, and they beat California Baptist 81-57. Was pretty cool. And then same thing with UT Arlington. This is a team that, my goodness, just seemed to break every single WAC record, most points in a single game.
In the tournament.
Scoring 109 points, and they just crushed Stephen F. Austin, 109-78. But give credit to the Lumberjacks. They really hung around. They kept on fighting, and obviously just couldn't overcome what UT Arlington was doing.
Yeah, 109 points. That's tough to beat there. Also set the record for most 3-pointers in a WAC tournament game as well. And I think, Kendra, and we talked about it all season, the buys and how important those buys were. And that was definitely a contributing factor, I would say, to those Thursday games. UT Arlington, Seattle U, not having to play the night before. And it did seem that California Baptist and Stephen F. Austin both kind of ran out of gas in that one.
Yeah, that was tough. But then we got to Friday semifinal day. We got our look at Grand Canyon, the number 1 seed, and the number 2 seed, Tarleton. So Grand Canyon and Seattle U matched up first, and that was a really fun one. That was going to be the rubber match. Seattle U had stopped Grand Canyon, who was, on a massive win streak earlier in the season. Then Grand Canyon went back and beat Seattle U. So this one was tough, but Grand Canyon, they started off slow. Seattle U was leading at the half, but something about the depth and the ability for Tyon Grant Foster to just put the team on his back at times. Grand Canyon was able to pull out the win, 80-72.
Yeah, having this was my 8th WAC Vegas, Kendra. Whoa. And having seen that many Tyon Grant Foster, a different player than perhaps we've seen. I was there after Pascal Siakam was in the tournament. He was there, I believe, the year before I was there. Obviously, he's gone on to the NBA and been an all-star and won an NBA title and those kind of things. But Tyon Grant Foster, in that since then, he's just different. You hear talk of him. Mike O'Donnell talked about it during the championship broadcast. NBA, potential draft pick, in the upcoming NBA draft. He can shoot from the outside. He can get to the basket. He's got unbelievable athletic ability. He's a great defender. So he has a lot of things that NBA players or NBA scouts are looking for. Dave Miller, also our analyst during the week, mentioned that how NBA scouts are they'll look at the fact, hey, Kansas had him on the team. Kansas doesn't miss on many guys. Even though his path wound up, to DePaul and then on to Grand Canyon, he's that kind of a difference maker. And we saw he got WAC top play this week. We could have picked 3 or 4 different plays from Ty and Grant Foster that were unbelievable kind of plays this week.
Yeah, he really is a special player, and especially with this story that we've shared multiple times, had his heart condition and didn't think he played basketball, didn't play for 16 months. Just a really neat story. And then we had a pretty fiery Friday night semifinal game between UT Arlington and Tarleton State. This one was crazy, and it was pretty even down the stretch. Brandon Talbot for the Mavericks sinks the 3. And it was actually just a very impressive. I feel like that is exactly how coaches teach. The defender's coming at him. All he does is take a perfect sidestep and shoot. I mean, it was just felt like technique was on the leak there for Brandon Talbot. And UT Arlington wins and advances to the championship.
Yeah, right on the money there, Kendra. And they were down by 13 points at one time during the game. UT Arlington was to Tarleton, who was the number 2 seed. Great team under Joseph Jones. But yeah, down the stretch, such a competitive game, and UTA comes out on top there. Would have been interesting, as we've mentioned on the show before, Tarleton State not eligible for the NCAA tournament. So if they had won that game, gone to the championship, GCU would have automatically been in before the game had even started, because that's how the bid would have gone. But yeah, very fun game to watch, and that was another lead story on Sports Center.
Absolutely. I mean, that was certainly a fun one. But we moved to the championship, and it was Grand Canyon and UT Arlington. This was a really close one as well. But Grand Canyon sort of pulled it away in the second half. They were up 12. It was a fun matchup. Ty and Grant Foster started slow. It was actually Luke War who was leading the way for the Lopes at one point. They put him on the all-tournament team. Well-deserved. Right. He really stepped up. And Grand Canyon goes back to the big dance for the second year in a row. And also 3 of the last 4 years, Bryce Drew making a powerhouse over at Grand Canyon.
Yeah, congratulations. 3 out of 4, 2 in a row. We mentioned how the Orleans is unlucky for some teams, but for Grand Canyon, and Kyle McDonald pointed this out to us last week. Only one team has beaten Grand Canyon in the Orleans, and that's New Mexico State. So,
and they're gone.
And they're gone. So that streak continues for GCU. Then we get to Selection Sunday. They wind up getting a 12 seed, which is their best seed, Kendra, since they've been going these 4 years. They play St. Mary's. So last year, if you remember, they matched up against Gonzaga, the West Coast Conference champions, who were at the Orleans when we got there. When we got to the Orleans this year, St. Mary's, it was still mainly Gonzaga fans, right, for the West Coast Conference, but did see the St. Mary's fans celebrating because they had finally taken down Goliath in the championship, so they get the 4 seed. They're playing in Spokane, Washington, so Pacific time zone for both teams. I like the matchup. What are you thinking, Kendra?
I'm excited. I think just watching the Zoom with Coach Drew that he had on the Selection Sunday, I think they expected to be a higher 11 seed. So, not necessarily that they were mad about the matchup, but that's a tough one. They said St. Mary's doesn't make a lot of mistakes, so they execute very well. But all I'm hearing is a lot of Lopes fans are traveling up to Spokane, the area. St. Mary's isn't their favorite team up in Spokane, to be honest. So there's going to be a lot of GCU love just in that aspect. So should be a good one. And if Grand Canyon can come out and play, I think they can compete with anyone. And, I have them going not just this round, but I have them beating whoever, which I'm thinking Alabama at this point, in the next round. So I got big hopes for them.
Well, I'll defer to your bracket, Kendra, because you're ahead of me in the standings there. We did have a chance. You mentioned they did a Zoom afterwards. Let's play a couple of sound bites from Bryce Drew and Gabe McLaughlin once they found out their seed.
We've had a lot of goals. This team still has more goals they want to accomplish. And so, I think the guys going last year, some of them, that experience hopefully will help some of the other guys. And and know kind of what to expect and the familiarity of getting in the tournament. So hopefully that experience will help us.
The maturity of this team. You know, it takes a village, right? And it's going to take every single one of us. You know, not one person can just go out there and win a game all by itself. I mean, we all got to lock in from this moment until Friday, and you know, just understand who we are and play that way. And so the mindset is to go in and win, and that's it. Go in and win and play for God's glory.
So Grand Canyon will play St. Mary's. That is a 9 o'clock tip Central Time on True TV. That's 7 o'clock Pacific Time. So you want to make sure to watch that, because I have a good feeling about that one, Kendra, that GCU could pull that one off. And we have two other teams still playing basketball. Seattle U and Tarleton are still in the postseason.
Seattle U is playing in the CBI, so they play on March 23rd, which is tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Flow Hoops, taking on Delaware State. So that should be a fun one. Good to see, you know, Cameron Tyson and that squad that has a couple seniors just continue to play in the postseason.
Yeah, you always cherish anytime you can play basketball beyond the regular season and the conference tournament. Tarleton State, meanwhile, in the CIT, they've already won 2 games in the CIT. They got to play in Wisdom Gym. They beat Texas Southern 82-71, and then they beat their rivals from down the road. Abilene Christian came in after they beat Texas A&M Corpus Christi, also at Wisdom Gym. Tarleton beats ACU 86-59, so they really took care of business there. They move on to the CIT semifinals, which will also be at Wisdom Gym in Stephenville, taking on Indiana, Purdue, Fort Wayne. That will be on Monday at 6 p.m. Central Time.
Yeah, cool opportunity for Tarleton to get a chance to host in the semifinals.
Let's take a quick break, Kendra. When we come back, we'll talk WAC Women's Hoops on the WAC Podcast.
In the WAC, we value sportsmanship on the field
and in the stands.
We take pride in playing fair and being honest.
We honor the game by showing respect for our opponents,
the officials,
the fans,
and our team.
Great sportsmanship is about taking ownership after a loss
and being humble after a win.
We want you to team up with us by staying positive on the sidelines,
because great sportsmanship is what unites us.
We are
the Western Athletic Conference.
Welcome back to the WAC Podcast. Eric Danner and Kendra Sheehan. The women's tournament in WAC Vegas. A lot of fun as well. Maybe not the buzzer beaters and those kind of things that we saw on the men's side, but nonetheless, a lot of interesting games going on. Starting off in the first round, UT Arlington dispatched Southern Utah 67-53. Kendra, not a super competitive game to start off the tournament. Southern Utah, of course, was the defending WAC champion, but UTA starting what would be a little bit of a run for them.
Yeah, UTA, you know, they were a team that started really poorly in the season. 1-8, I think, was their record, and they were able to flip things around. And Southern Utah just had a depleted roster at this point with not a lot of players available. I think 8 active players were available for their team. So UT Arlington took care of business there. And then we did have a bit of an upset in the first round, which was pretty exciting for Tarleton State, taking on Abilene Christian. Texans on the women's side making their first ever appearance in WAC Vegas. And they just played like they had nothing to lose under their first year head coach, Bill Brock. And they take down Abilene Christian, who just never seemed to find a rhythm, 54-41.
Yeah, only 41 points scored by ACU. That's very un-ACU-like. And yeah, Tarleton State, as you said, had nothing to lose. So their first win in the WAC tournament. So congratulations to Bill Brock and his team. They went on to play Stephen F. Austin in the quarterfinals. This was one, you know, we had talked about all year, again, those buys and the seeds and those kind of things. Stephen F. Austin beats Tarleton State 70-58 in that one. I mean, it kind of went according to script, I would say.
Yeah, that one, you know, Tarleton State gave it everything they had. I mean, they weren't too far off. It never felt like the game was totally out of reach for the team. But Stephen F. Austin just had so much, you know, when you've got Kirsten Harden, you have the Defensive Player of the Year in Destiny Lombard, you know, that was a tough matchup for them. And I think they were also, you know, drained from the night before, whereas SFA got that bye. The
other matchup we had, UT Arlington. This was an upset in terms of seeds. I don't know if it was an upset to everybody who had been following WAC basketball just because of the injuries that Utah Tech had suffered, especially recently. UTA wins 72-57. This one, I felt like the Lady Mavs really, were in control most of that game.
Yeah, this one, I mean, unfortunately for Utah Tech, Maddie Warren, one of their big time leading scorers, tears her ACL the Saturday before the tournament. Her sister, Macy Warren, had already torn her ACL. They had lots of injuries. And I mean, to have an injury like that so close to the tournament, they were just kind of lost out there, I think. Even for the first quarter, JD Gustin had mentioned it, like we had no idea how like we were really playing because we just didn't know how to deal with that. And so unfortunately, it just wasn't their year with that. So credit to UT Arlington though for firepowering past them.
Yeah, and Brianna Gillen had a tough shooting to start the game.
Yeah.
Obviously, UTA able to key in on her more. She wound up having a good game, after that, but just it was kind of too much to overcome for the Trailblazers in that one. We move on to the semifinals. UT Arlington advancing to play California Baptist. CBU was on a mission, I think, Kendra. They went 83-67.
Absolutely. I mean, California Baptist was in the championship last year and they lost to Southern Utah. And, in the semifinals, these guys were lights out shooting from three. They were in control of this one pretty much from the get-go, 83-67. They came in as the number one seed and, they're eligible for the tournament. They won it back in 2020, 21. And weren't able to go. And so they had a little bit of chip on their shoulder. They wanted this one really badly. And so that was just an impressive performance. And, UT Arlington playing their third game in 3 days. It's just tough to compete with a red hot team that's shooting really well and had 2 extra days of rest.
Yeah, and CBU, some might say that they set the record for 3-pointers in a game in the tournament.
Some could say that.
Turns out they didn't, but they already had the record from that 2021 run, as you mentioned. Stephen F. Austin then playing Grand Canyon, and this wound up being an upset as well. Grand Canyon had the 2 seed. They'd been fighting with CBU for the 1-2 seed all year. Stephen F. They beat GCU both times in the regular season, Kendra. They beat him again in the tournament, 66-63.
And what's crazy about this game is that GCU led 17-3 after the first quarter. Stephen F. Austin scored 3 points. That was it. And somehow just came back to win. I mean, GCU, I don't know if they felt the pressure of, they say, it's just, another game you're coming in, but, to have the season that they had and the seniors on the squad, that this was their last year and everything coming together, and then just to not get in rhythm and then I maybe start to panic and stuff. I mean, we did not see Grand Canyon play any sort of their best basketball in that tournament. And so that was heartbreaking for a team that, their motto was, we've come so far just to come this far, and that's really what happened. They made it all the way, but weren't able to get it done when it mattered.
Yeah, a lot of veteran players on that team as well. So SFA going to the championship under first-year head coach Len Bishop taking on CBU. And much like maybe the GCU on the men's side, CBU tends to play really well at the Orleans Arena. They win the championship 75-74. Lady Jacks, however, Kendra, they led by 11 points at one point during the game.
Well, this is exactly, so last year, California Baptist in the semifinals shoots lights out from 3. They go to the championship when they're playing Southern Utah and they just go cold. I mean, maybe we made a couple, but it was not good. And that was a big part of why they lost. Then here, CBU in the semifinals shoots lights out from 3. Go to the championship. They started, I believe, 1 of 11 from 3. And they were
they
down
finished 5 of 24 from 3.
Yeah.
And won the game.
Yeah. So, I mean, they found other ways to win. I think this one, Chloe Webb, it's her senior year. She had been there last year. They weren't able to get it done. So she felt like, this is our year. And credit to Nuke Bosch Duran, who showed up in a big moment, draining a clutch 3, I believe, and giving them the lead.
Yeah, her only 3 of the game, as it turns out. She only scored 5 points, but none bigger than that 3-pointer with 2 minutes to go. Chloe Webb, 24 points, 15 rebounds in that one.
Ooh.
And Chloe Webb is what, 5'8"? I mean,
and she's not that tall.
Yeah. And 12 of 14 from the line. So as you mentioned, they that's the good thing about CBU is that they're able to do Okay, they're not hitting from three. They can go inside. And not only that, go inside to a guard.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty impressive. And, credit to Jared Olson in his 12th year, getting the WAC Coach of the Year honor.
I heard it was 11th year.
Oh,
That's 12th
big
year.
questions.
So
But-
CBU wins 75-74. They go on to the NCAA tournament. They get they're on selection Sunday. The news comes out they're staying in Southern California, but they're playing the number 6 ranked team in the country in UCLA.
Yeah, that's certainly, I mean, yeah, positives. You get a lot of your fans. That's what Coach Olson, they're saying that everyone gets to go. It's California Baptist getting to go, not just this team. But it's a tough matchup, and they'll have their work cut out for them. But anything can happen. We've seen it on the men's side. Why not? If California Baptist can get it going from the perimeter, if they don't have a poor shooting night from three, I think they can hang around. And with anybody, and maybe pull an upset.
Yeah, the thing with UCLA,
I have them in my women's bracket winning.
UCLA led by Lauren Betts, who is actually from Aurora, Colorado, believe it or not, Kendra, went to not Eagle Crest. She went to Grandview High School in Aurora, started out at Stanford. She's 6'7". She is very tough in the post. And that's kind of the big difference that you'll see between the high majors and the mid majors is the, there's nobody 6'7" that's quite like Lauren Betts in the WAC. But if CBU can get hot shooting like they did in the semifinals, anything can happen. But it's definitely a tough matchup. Going to be on national TV though. That's going to be on ESPN2. That'll be 6:30 Pacific time. So that'll be 8:30 Central time on Saturday. So that'll be a fun one to watch as well. We actually had a chance to hear from both. Actually, you talked to them. Jared Olson and Chloe Webb after they found out that they were going to be playing UCLA.
And I think one of the biggest things that I've just been trying to focus on is it's not just our team going, it's the entire CBU community that gets the chance to go to the NCAA tournament because we are playing it at UCLA, and it is a short drive for us to go to. And it's a pretty unique opportunity because I think most teams that go, you're going somewhere far away, right? You don't always get a chance to bring your fans, your family, so we're kind of looking at it as, just one of those things where we're doing it for everybody that's been supporting us all year long and just giving the school a chance to go to the tournament. And we're really proud to be the team that can kind of make that happen.
I'm just excited. I'm glad, the team, we were able to get and accomplish all the things we've done this season. I think, we had a good journey, and it's not done yet. So we'll see what happens at UCLA, but I know we're all excited.
So best of luck to CBU as they face UCLA in the NCAA tournament. Kendra, WAC baseball, WAC softball, we're into conference play already. Of course, we're going to talk a lot about that in the coming weeks on this WAC podcast. But coming up next, you had a chance to sit down with the commissioner, Brian Thornton. He's going to be a big part of March Madness next year. You'll want to hear what he has to say about that next on the WAC podcast.
Dun, dun, dun.
University Credit Union has been serving students, employees, and alumni of the university community for more than 70 years. We've got plenty of moves that benefit our members, like the lowest loan rates in the nation guarantee, educational resources, personalized savings and investing advice, and 24/7 online and mobile banking. Plus, our virtual assistant, Royce, is always happy to deliver an assist. University Credit Union, the winning choice. Learn more and join today at ucu.org.
I'm Kendra Sheehan, now joined by WAC Commissioner Brian Thornton. Brian, it's been a crazy week. We've both had little sleep, but you've been a very busy man. And we just came off of WAC Vegas, where we had so much excitement. We were the top story on SportsCenter 2 mornings after. And, from your perspective, what did you think of the tournament, year 2 of the resume seeding system, and getting 2 teams into the tournament?
It was an exciting tournament, and that's all we can ask for. Both on the men's and women's side, we had some really, really compelling matchups and some really great games. And as you said, we had some excitement down the stretch in a lot of our games. We had overtimes, we had buzzer beaters, and that's what you want in March. And so I'm really excited and proud of what we accomplished this year, and I look forward to future years of WAC Vegas.
You also are on the NIT committee, so you got a chance to fly out to Indy. What was that experience like? Walk me through what the process was like, and is it something that you expected?
It certainly was a crazy week, as you said. After the first 2 days of WAC Vegas, I took a red-eye flight to Indianapolis to start the NIT selection process, which was unique. This is the first year of a little bit of a change to the way that the NIT selections were made. We had AQ spots for the top 6 leagues in the NCAA. And so that process was unique. We were waiting from the NIT standpoint to see which teams were going to make it into the big dance, which teams were going to play in the NIT. There was a few teams that decided to opt out of the NIT, but I'm really proud of what we came up with. And I think that what you'll see with the NIT this year is one of the strongest fields that the NIT has had in a very, very long time.
And next year, you'll work with the NCAA committee and be a part of that. What is kind of the differences between the NIT and the NCAA committee, and what are you looking forward to next year for that one?
I'm super excited about being a part of the NCAA men's committee next year. It's certainly an honor to be a part of that, as we've talked about before. And it will be a little bit different. You know, you're not waiting to see what teams will be a part of another tournament. You are the tournament. And so that part will be a little bit different, but it's a lot of the same processes, the way that you vet teams, the way that you scrub teams. All of the team sheets are the same. The way that you vote is very similar. And so I think that being a part of the NIT committee certainly set me up for success moving over to the men's committee for next year.
You know, when you talk about the NCAA committee and the selection process and the NIT committee, you know, we're year 2 of the WAC resume seeding system, which encompasses an entire body of work for the season, not just conference play. And that's something that the NCAA committee does. So do you feel like with the resume seeding system and the way the NCAA selection committee works, that, you know, the reason the WAC is continuing to rise is kind of the comparison between the two and how the NCAA selection committee makes their decisions?
I do think the resume seeding system has continued to work. You know, we get great feedback from the men's committee and the women's committee about how the numbers kind of play out. And it is different, as we've talked about many times, but what it does is it highlights the entire season, body of work from the entire season, and it also highlights the quality of each win. You know, one thing that, you know, when we're in the room, we're talking about, you know, quad 1, quad 2, quad 3, quad 4. But what the seeding system does is it takes it to another level. It puts a numeric value on each win. You know, a win against UConn is different than a win against a team that's, you know, maybe 50th in the net. And that value should play out in that way. And that's what the seeding system does. So I'm excited to utilize the seeding system myself when I'm on the selection committee to help make some decisions.
Certainly, we have a lot of fun, and we have our matchups for our teams that did get that automatic bid. So Grand Canyon drew up St. Mary's, the 12 seed, taking on the 5 seed. You'll be in Spokane for that one. What are you looking forward to for a great matchup and a chance for the Lopes to win a game in the NCAA tournament?
Absolutely. You know, St. Mary's is a great program. They've been very good for a number of years. And, you know, GCU seems to kind of be that upstart. You know, they're that program that continues to build, continues to grow. And this could be a year and an opportunity where they can take that next step and win a game in the NCAA tournament. You know, that's what we talk about from a WAC standpoint is can we advance in tournaments? Whether it's, you know, men's basketball, women's basketball, or other sports, our goal is always to put our teams in the best position to be good in the NCAA championship, and Grand Canyon seems to be ready for that opportunity this year.
Looking forward to seeing the Lopes in action. And California Baptist on the women's side earned their first berth to the NCAA tournament. They take on number 2 UCLA. What are you looking forward to in that matchup? It's a tough one for the Lancers, but they've always risen to the occasion.
It is a tough one, but also, you know, I'm really excited for the Lancers this year. CBU has an opportunity to play in the NCAA tournament in California, so they should have great fan support there in Los Angeles. But also, they're a program that had won the WAC championship a few years ago, but they were ineligible due to transition. So it's kind of come full circle for them because now they have an opportunity to actually play in the NCAA tournament, not too far away from home. And I hope that, and I know that they'll have great fan support and they'll be ready for that game.
Looking forward to that one as well. Well, Commissioner Thornton, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for listening to the WAC Podcast. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And check out our website at wacsports.com.